first of all, I'd just like to say, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here today, apart from the fact it's an amazing venue, but to get to, show off a little bit about a small piece of work that we did at the Bishop's Palace back in September. You can see I've put the Bishop's Palace, Wells. Just a quick advert for Wells, why not? Last year, Wells was voted the best short city break in the UK. So if you haven't been to Wells, look us up and come on down, because it's a wonderful, very peaceful place to visit, lots of interesting things to see. Amongst which is the Bishop's Palace, where I'm lucky enough to work. It says the Palace Trust up there because that's the name of the charity that I work for that runs the Bishop's Palace as a visitor attraction. So it's an 800-year-old palace in 14 acres of grounds. The city's called Wells, and guess what? In the grounds of the palace are where the well pools are that give us our name. So to me and to a lot of people in Wells and the surrounding area, it's the heart of the city, really. We also run private events, weddings and so forth, and public events like, outdoor theatre, that type of thing. And then an increasingly important part of what our charity is about, what we stand for, is working with the community. Some of that is things that we initiate, some of it is what the community brings to us, and that they want to work with us on. So that's kind of who we are and what we're all about. Now, in terms of what we did as part of the ENLIVEN Project, ours was called Nature Connections, and this is just a bit of the background as to why we got to the point of running that project with ENLIVEN. So the Natural Academy, look them up if you haven't heard of them. We had done some work with the Somerset Wildlife Trust where they had run Nature Connections at the Bishop's Palace, co-facilitated by some of our team. And it's all based on the work of the Natural Academy. And their work is based on research that's been done over the years about the benefits of making that real connection with nature. And just before the whole ENLIVEN project was really taking off, when you'll all remember when we had to sort of put in a bid and a proposal, I had just completed the Natural Academy's Nature Connector course. So it felt like it was all coming together, really, and it seemed the obvious thing to try something out, try something new. And over the years, we've a very good relationship with our local Dementia Action Alliance group, and we're always working towards being a dementia-friendly site. So before we started doing anything, really, we thought the Nature Connections would work, seemed like a good idea, but we thought, well, it's no good if just we think it's a good idea. We are going to need the endorsement, if you like, of people who might potentially be participating. So back in February 23, we organised a consultation day. In the morning, we had people from local groups, some of them charitable groups. A representative from ENLIVEN came along, a representative from the Natural Academy, and I just spoke about what we had in mind, just to hear their feedback, really, and hopefully get some useful advice and their experience. And then in the afternoon, we had a group of about 7 or 8 people who are living with dementia, and, well, here I call them carers, just because it's easier, but when I put carer, what I mean is somebody who's living alongside that person, maybe their spouse may not be, but is supporting them in some way or another. So some of them came along as well to give their views. And on the whole, people liked the idea. That was a relief for a start. And they made some very helpful recommendations. So we did actually put into practice everything that they suggested. So, for example, they said mornings are better than afternoons. A couple of hours is going to be about the right length of time. Also, I think quite a few people here today have mentioned about trust and people being able to feel confident and relax and enjoy it. And so the feeling on the whole was, it'd be good if the carers, if you like, were involved, but that they weren't necessarily there for the whole session. So what we planned, and actually it did work pretty well, was that everyone would arrive together. We'd do the first activity together, and then when we break for our coffee break, if the carer and the person living with dementia were happy and felt relaxed enough for the carer to head off then they would. But that they would stay in the grounds of the Bishop's Palace. They'd have their phone on, if we needed to get hold of them for whatever reason we could. And actually, that worked really well. So, again, I think it was Beamish said about meeting people beforehand. We thought that would be really important, partly to inform us about what particular needs individual people may have, but also to make sure that we were meeting people's expectations or managing people's expectations. So everyone knew sort of what they were signing up for, and that we could be as prepared as we reasonably could be. The sessions were each week, so it's a Monday morning. We came to look forward to our Monday mornings, actually, the staff as well as the people taking part. So each session included a mindful activity. So something, I think it was Steve earlier was saying, right here, right now, is a really powerful concept, and one, I think, unless you're really conscious about it, you wouldn't automatically do that. So that's what we planned for, to start off with a mindful activity to really, literally, the first thing we did was a grounding activity, short and sweet, nothing too touchy-feely. We didn't want to put people off, but something that would really bring us all, everybody in that room, to the here and the now, and the togetherness of being in that group. And then we'd have a practical task as well. So something you were physically doing, something, and that always resulted in something you could take home with you. I don't know about you, but when I go and do so, I always want something to take home. I'm quite pleased with my green bag with all my bits and bobs in today, We're all a bit like that, aren't we? And then we'd have a coffee break. That was really important. I think it's like anything. I went on a brilliant tour at lunchtime with one of the beef eaters. A perfect guided tour. Light and shade, a bit of fun, but also some serious bits, some questions. It was just the way to do it. And so we tried to have the same in that 2-hour window. So there were some intense bits, but there were some light bits. There were some bits that were quite organised, and there was a beginning, a middle, and an end to them. But there were bits that were a bit more scope to let things, take their natural course, if you like. And then we were quite keen that people would always have something at the end of the session that they could practice back at home. Because that was always our intention. This was only ever going to be a short-term group, but we wanted people to begin to establish new habits that they could do anywhere, literally, if you were stood waiting for a bus. Or you don't have to always be in a beautiful setting like the Bishop's Palace to really appreciate nature. So everyone had a bit of homework, if you like. And then, I've said about that the carers were invited to head off. And actually, they all did do that every session. And then they'd meet us back up at the end. And we had feedback at the end of each session. I'll come back to that, I think, when I do the learning points. Oh, here we go. So what actually happened, The first week we based each session on one of the 5 pathways that the Natural Academy outlines for making a really good connection with nature. And you're thinking, well, hang on, there's only 4 weeks there, and you're talking about 5 pathways, Siobhan. So week 1, the theme was contact. You can see there, hopefully you can pick out that somebody stuck some things on the paper there. A ginkgo leaf, which is quite smooth, the soft petals of a rose. So that was very much about touch, feeling. Some people were attracted to bark on the trees and so forth. The second week, the theme was meaning. And again, a bit like the Beamish one, just to say that nearly all the photos on the slides were taken by the participants, because the fourth week was beauty, and we used that opportunity to do some photography. But the second week was meaning, and we focused a lot on the water that week, and people came up with some words about the water, what it meant to them. They did some pond dipping, which actually everyone loved the pond dipping. That was real fun. We tried, we wanted to have some fun as well. We didn't just want it to, we weren't going through the motions, but we really did all enjoy ourselves. And it's not hard to enjoy yourself at the Bishop's Palace, I've got to be honest. It does make my work a lot easier, but there really was a proper theme to each week, and having the Natural Academy's structure underpinning the course really helped me plan it and feel that there was a real focus to it. The third week was compassion. You can see someone there hopefully making a bird feeder. So that was about being kind to nature, feeding birds. We did some bird identification that week as well. Plus it was pouring with rain. So it's a jolly good idea. That one we were able to do inside, luckily. And then there's Paul with his bunch of flowers on week 4. So we do have a community garden in the Bishop's Palace, and the flowers were chosen from our cut flower garden. And of course, everyone's bunch was different. And we talked a bit about that. What I see as beauty might be completely different to somebody else, but that was a lovely activity to do. And then the 5th pathway is emotion. And emotion ran through every session, because what we were always trying to do was to encourage people to, in whatever way they felt able to express how they felt, how something made them feel, how they experienced something. And so they were the 5 pathways. So did it work? I mean, ultimately, it's all well and good doing these things, but was it worth it? Was it worth the effort? Did the people who came along get anything out of it? Well, we did do some evaluation, probably a bit more than we'd normally do, but because, of course, we are part of the ENLIVEN Project, we were really keen to actually measure the impact that coming to the sessions had had on people. And actually, as the sessions went on, it became clear that we hadn't really put much thought into what the carers may get out of it. But as the weeks went on, we thought we really must try and measure that. Anyway, I won't bore you with all those images, but we tried different ways of evaluating it. The attendance was very good. So we had 4 couples we had 5 couples who signed up to the course. One couple, the carer in particular, was very nervous about his wife coming to the group because he thought she would be worried about being part of a dementia group. And in fact, they never did come along, so they never did attend. And I have spoken to him since. He said, I just thought she wasn't ready for it. She wasn't ready for it. And so we had 4 regular couples coming. Couple missed a week because they had holidays planned. But really, everybody who planned to come to each session did show up. And to sum it up, really, we all had a really good time. People did find a real connection with nature, and that they were keen to continue. Now, we're very fortunate at the Bishop's Palace that the way we work is that anybody who comes and is involved in any kind of group that's run on the site, is always given a free annual admission ticket. So our tickets last a full year. So anybody coming on the course was automatically given a ticket right at the start of the course, so they could come as many times as they liked in between the week to practice things, but also to keep coming back. And I think after a year of doing that, I'd be fairly confident that people would see the value in buying a ticket themselves, for example. Carers do come for free at the Palace as well. Like I say, the 5 pathways really helped to guide our work. And the key thing was the impact on the carers as well was much more positive than we'd anticipated. Here's the group. I think I've got the same outfit on in that picture, actually. That was outside our learning room, but most of what we did took place in the gardens. So what did we learn and what's going to happen next? Definitely, we should have had a longer lead-in time for referrals. We had originally planned that we'd have a 4-week course each season, spring, summer and autumn, to fit in with the deadline for the ENLIVEN project. The first 2 courses we weren't able to run. It was very disappointing because we didn't get enough referrals. That's partly was my fault, our fault, in so much as we were a bit short-staffed at the time, and I don't think we did enough to prompt the organisations and probably didn't give them enough lead-in time to make the referrals. But this session went ahead in September. The pre-meeting was vital, really made life a whole lot easier for everyone else. I think the thing that people were least reported that they found the least useful was the practicing at home. And I think that's because that always came at the end of the session. It was always a little bit rushed. And why on earth I hadn't thought of just writing it down on a piece of paper for people. I mean, it's not rocket science, is it? But definitely I was doing it again. I give a little slip of paper just outlining what we'd done that week and the kind of things people could practice at home. Like I say, the end of the sessions were too rushed. We were doing our own evaluation. We had a chap called Steve from Exeter University, and he was also leading the group to complete an evaluation. So that last 5 minutes, it wasn't right, really. And I'd definitely do that differently if we were doing it again. I've said about the annual pass, but also it didn't feel right. I mean, 4 weeks isn't long, is it? And we'd all had such lovely time and we're just really getting to know each other. And so at the end of it, I suggested that we might meet up again before Christmas, because all of the Christmas decorations at the Bishop's Palace are made naturally from the plants and flowers in our gardens, which of course the group have been involved in. So we did meet up in December, had to have a mince pie and all the rest of it. And we actually gave each member of the group a bottle of the apple and pear juice that we'd had bottled from the gardens. And of course they had actually picked some of the apples themselves for the bird feeders. So that was rather nice. And we also, photographs that people took on the last session had made into a card which we sent to people so that people had a little reminder of the group. And we actually at Christmas said, we'll meet again in the summer, have a picnic outside, and quite a nice way to stay in touch. We will be running more of the courses. We are running a Nature Connections course at the moment at the Palace. That's for adults with some kind of neurodiversity. So I'm not involved in running that. That's being run by Somerset Wildlife Trust and Diverse UK. Do you know what? I mean, we had so much help and support doing this. So I do, indulge me a moment while I thank a few people. So, first and foremost, the 4 couples who took part, who actually took a bit of a gamble and gave up their Monday mornings to come along to the Palace and take part. And they really did put the effort in it. And I would just like to say how I think being part of the research added an extra dimension of satisfaction to people. When I said that I'd been invited to come and speak about the project today, they were all really chuffed about that, and I'm really excited to give them a copy of the report and everything. And so that added an extra dimension of made the course richer. I'd like to thank the Somerset Wildlife Trust, Mary in particular, who co-facilitated the sessions and helped plan them and was just all round a wonderful person. The Lawrence Centre in Wells is a day centre, mainly working with people living with dementia, and they're the organisation which referred most of the people to the course. I'd like to thank the Natural Academy. Honestly, do look them up. It's not rocket science. I did the course. It's about those 5 pathways, being in the moment, and it gave me the confidence to run the course, I think. And then last but certainly not least, I really would like to thank the ENLIVEN Project for all their support and inspiration, and particularly to Steve Owen, who is pictured here on the right-hand side, who did come to every session, was very supportive over the phone as well, and was just a quiet, reassuring presence throughout the whole project. So thank you very much. Any questions?